Advanced philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy.
So long as I'm in this Oval Office.
Hey,
Yes.
girls.
Check.
How's it
How do I sound?
You do great. You sound great. You sound like pretty good. How do I sound? Can you hear me?
Sound good.
All right.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet. So what the heck's going on in Korea? You know anybody over there? Like anything on the inside, bro?
Yeah, all the men are so tired of not getting enough pussy from the 4B movement. So basically, it's just inadvertently causing all this political turmoil.
I mean, it does look like some sort of Reichian levels of sexual frustration. Pull back to... Go ahead.
Looks like they ironically inherited that from us. You're welcome, South Korea.
God. Yeah, doesn't this lady remind you that, like, North Korea is happier? Am I wrong here? Like, isn't that like
I actually met her in real life. She came to New York City to speak on like a panel at Dime Square, and her face looked very shiny. It was like super duper shiny in the light. She almost seemed like a robot.
Did she look at your shoes and like walk away? Was she like one of those kind of people, or?
Oh no, she seemed like she seems like a grifter, honestly. Like she goes to these events to speak, and I guess for the venue, it's like they get to just bring a bunch of nerds in who wants to hear this lady speak, and she gets a big sack of cash from like location to location. It's just, I don't know, it's a pretty good deal. I'm not hating. Like shit, I would do it if I could.
Yeah, to be fair.
Okay,
but yeah.
I'm gonna spiel. So this isn't just the influence of some videos I've been seeing, but so the great story in the Bible is the Tower of Babel, right? Yeah, it's amazing. But so the new left neoliberal fascism, what it wants to do is essentially divide you. People that don't have a sense of shared identity are not likely to unionize. Sorry, I keep repeating this kind of that mantra. But so everything that we've been fed is biasing our lens, for sure. It's biasing our lens about capitalism and what other countries are doing. So I don't think when it comes to, communist China, I'm very skeptical of when people like Zizek say that China's a success. You have to be, I think, skeptical of a lot of those statements, but at the same time, we see everything through a Western lens. And I think one big reason we have such a crisis of identity, well, is specifically because that we don't share any sort of collective identity. And you can have a diverse population, but there is severe advantages to everyone being on the same page about something. And so that's where, something like, Crusades is like, well, yeah, the downside of the Crusades is you have a ton of violence, but the upside is like, well, if everybody's Catholic, who is fighting with each other? Like, it's a way, in some sense, it can be a way to bring about long, sustained periods of peace. If you have people that have a shared identity, it's actually can be a very, very tremendous thing. And so that was what was nice about what used to be like the identity of being an American. You could go from one side of the country to the other and maybe connect with people on the sense that we're both, Americans. We have an American identity.
Well, why stop there? No, I'm saying like shared consensus, right? I don't think that's I don't think that's stops at identity. I'm pretty sure that's everything. That's like reality. Reality is more or less a shared consensus as far as we know it. Like, it's our perceptions aren't seeing the whole picture. If anything, what we call reality is literally just a shared consensus. We all agree, oh yeah, this is we all agree that this is reality. But meanwhile, none of us have the capability to actually see reality. I mean, even on a biological level, like the human eye can only perceive like X amount, like a small percentage of the visible light spectrum. So I mean, that means like it's everything, like it's a shared consensus doesn't just have like a political implication. That's literally creating reality. And you see like you see the manifestations of that, and like you said, the Crusades, when like basically competing realities. And it's like when the shared consensus breaks down and it's like, oh no, I can't let this person live. They're gonna destroy my whole reality pretty much just by nature of their beliefs and existing.
Absolutely. So Amazon created a heat map, at least in the Northeast, of where people were most likely to unionize. So they took all that data and they were tracking, they do what we're doing, what corporations do, and they essentially union bust as much as they can. So they did find people essentially couldn't communicate with each other. They could not unionize. Like, it was almost like literally impossible. Like when you see part of yourself in other people and the rest of humanity, which is something you should do. I think, that's what the whole Christ conversation is about. Christ, God, whatever. That makes you want to protect, yourself, but also other people. And so if you don't have any of that, well, like you get taken advantage of by centralized power systems. And a modern version of a centralized power system right now, it's no longer religion. Like, it's massive corporations that do like quite a lot of what's the word for it? When you monopolizing. Yeah, that's the word. Sorry, I spilled a very long time there.
No, so that's the whole game, right? Actually, I got a question for you guys. So what would you place more emphasis on when it comes to relating to other people, or connecting with other people? Would you say perception matters more or perspective?
Will you break down what you see as the difference between those?
Well, perception is pretty much your interpretation of what your senses take in, right? You look at something with your eyes, you hear something with your ears, and that's what you're perceiving. But perspective, it's like, all right, for example, like you get two people looking at the exact same house, except one person is standing on a mountain on the far east side, whereas another person could be up close on the complete other end, like on the west side.
Okay, so you're saying like overall versus your specific viewpoint.
What I'm saying is there's two people are looking at the same exact thing from completely different perspectives, which gives them completely different perceptions. Now, like, you know, our perceptions are only so limited in like the frame that we could actually see things. So no one, again, like no one's really seeing the full picture, quote unquote. So you can't say like anyone perceives there's a baseline reality that any single person is able to perceive, right?
Well, there's a mass generalization, and then there's the personal interpretation of the mass generalization. So everyone, like even within an ideological tribe, every individual has an interpretation that justifies the ideology for them, as well as the range of the radicalism within it. So, I mean, consensus is cool, but I disagree. I don't think it creates reality. I don't think that a collective lie actually creates reality. I think that it just makes it a believed lie that unites people, which has its strength.
Then show me the truth. If what you're pointing to are what you believe are believed lies, then what's the baseline truth? There is none.
The truth is raw experience, but it's limited by perception, because perception is individual. It's subjective, relative.
So are we ever going to break out of that limitation?
Well, I think that it would be. I think that we'd have to have some form of united perception at that point. You know, like the more that we can empathize with each other and put each other on one another's shoes, the more that we can actually develop that meta perception. You know, but you know, it takes. I think that maybe it would require something deeper than, like, we're very ego driven and very, you know, like from our own perception is the only perception that matters kind of mentality.
So we're going to need like extra sensory perception then at some point. If we're going to get closer to seeing the full elephant and not just like a part of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we're completely limited by our senses, and reality is not.
Combined consciousness can help.
Yeah, sure.
The connection that we have, like when you think of somebody and then 2 minutes later they call you and you haven't talked to them for a year. That kind of thing. I think those kind of things will start to, you know, like it's kind of like a pendulum swings. Like maybe they'll come into the fore more over time. Maybe they'll go away over time. I think that they are rising in availability right now. But I think when it comes to truth versus like perspective and stuff like that, like, yeah, everybody can decide to agree on a lie or whatever. But the problem with truth is it always remains in the background regardless. And it'll just make itself evident more and more over time. Like no matter how much you want to like come up with a new perspective or something like that, if it's not congruent with what is, then what do you do?
The truth is the phenomena itself. It's the mystery itself, and that's what we make hypothesis out of. We create theories and we try to prove them. Well, we try to support them with evidence.
Yeah.
But that's basically what you're asking me when you're saying like, show me the truth, is going like, point your finger at it, you know? But then the problem is that we mistaken the finger for the moon. Like that, we mistaken the finger for the truth. And
here's a slightly
the point is that the truth can't be pointed at. The Tao. The Tao that is spoken can't be.
I'm saying here's a different context, all right? Because we're speaking from the context of humans. We're human beings, so it's like, why is it that when you want to like get in someone's head, when you want to get close to someone, suppose you want to win them over, convince them of something, like the way to do that is you obviously got to like adopt you can't adopt their perception. No single person can fully adopt another person's perception, because I can't see your eyeballs, but I can adopt perspective. Now, when people are walking around thinking like, oh, there is like what I'm perceiving is baseline reality, this is all there is to it, it's just what I could with my senses. You know, you take a person like that, and it's going to be really easy to pretty much manipulate them, because you see, it's really easy to isolate their perspective. You're like, oh, so you're talking about this from the perspective of a person who only does this, who's been through this, who's been through that. So if I could adopt those qualities like in my head and look at life and different situations through that lens, then you pretty much, what I'm trying to say is you get ahead way more with people by focusing on perspectives than perceptions. at least on a practical level. Maybe I can't say much to like the actual true nature of reality and all that, or baseline reality, but I know with people, they respond way more positively when you adopt their perspective instead of trying to like either trying to see their perception, or B, trying to influence your perception.
You're just a
shapeshifter,
man. That's all just jargon. I'm just a shapeshifter, and I'm busting your balls. I
think about this stuff a lot, you know.
Yeah, by the time I tell you the truth, the meaning of the words has changed, and by the time you perceive them, they were changing as they were coming out of my mouth, and when you were interpreting them. So, how can I tell you the truth when absolutely everything, even our language, is transient? Like at that level, I cannot actually tell you the truth. I can just try not to lie, and that's the best that we can do. It's not that
yes.
I should have
no matter what,
no matter what,
it's your perception perceiving their perception. So it's all filtered through your perception. So it's that there's no objectivity that you can really have, but you can accept your subjectivity and stop making truth claims. Stop pretending to have truth. Well, and that's where people get tricked. That's because people come out and they go, "Look, I have the truth," and then people go, "Hey, that makes sense within my presuppositions of reality." And then that's how they get manipulated. They just incorporate it because it's adjacent to their axioms, so they do it.
The magic is that like every person has another piece of the overall truth, right? Because we all have our different perspectives and vantage points. So but the tricky part is that you can never know fully whether somebody is actually telling you the truth as they understand it, or is just making things up. But what we can do is try and piece together from taking in as many perspectives as possible. Like, okay, so how does that align with what I see? How does it not? And you can start to kind of build a model and get a better picture of what is true. But it's going to be hard to nail it down.
Andrew.
I would elaborate to say that when a truth is able to be articulated and it actually is true, it's easier for other people to access it. Agreed?
Fairly.
Yeah, like it feels true. Like you can sometimes feel the truth in somebody's words. Like there's a different kind of vibe I find. This is just my intuition. So somebody else may totally disagree or not have this experience. But in my experience, like I used to listen to the radio all the time, and I would listen to crazy ass stories on Coast to Coast growing up. And you kind of had to take everybody as just they're a loon, they're crazy, they don't know what they're talking about. This is entertainment. Every once in a while, you would get a guest or a caller call in, and you could sense that they believed what they were saying. They had a more serious tone to what they were saying. So it was a little bit more like, maybe they are telling the truth, And you listen to that many crazies over that many years. I used to listen to it every night, all growing up. You know what I mean? And I feel like, I didn't get much sleep, and I would always sleep through my first period every day at school. But I feel like that kind of trained me to sort of discern or be able to pick out the tonality of when someone is telling the truth, or at least believes what they're saying.
I think that it's about building, like you build a model based on all the multiple perspectives, and you try to synthesize what you can with them.
It's spot patterns.
Like every single perception has a piece of truth in it because it's experiencing reality, but it tries to articulate it into words, and then it becomes a game of telephone, and then it just fails. And so, hey, you have to actually take all the perceptions and put them together, and then try to actually understand from every perspective, like based on it as best you can. But then other people will have to also look at the model if they can.
My friend Dimitri yesterday was like actually arguing with me about this. He was saying, I agreed with him that pattern recognition is a skill. Like some people are better at it than others. But then I was telling him, I was like, if you think about it, people aren't really assessing the patterns themselves. They're only seeing like projections of the patterns or manifestations of it. Like it's not like you could ever actually perceive the raw pattern. You're only seeing like embodiments of it, maybe through words, concepts, images, symbols, but you're never like
people. You know, if you keep meeting certain people and then you're like, oh, I see a pattern here, you start avoiding people who
you're seeing a projection of that
whatever.
pattern. You're not actually seeing the pattern. You're seeing the manifestation.
But the pattern is in,
I think there's a degree of intuition
it's
to perception.
It's a rhythm.
That goes beyond.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Like there's I was saying, I think there's sort of an element of intuition to perception that kind of goes beyond your five senses to a degree, and so I think that can be trained too in order to get a better picture and actually perceive the patterns as they are more so.
Yeah, well, it's like a sixth sense in a way, and I think that there might be multiple sixth senses. Like, you know, when we say a sixth sense, usually it just means any extrasensorial ability that anyone has. But really, like that changes from person to person. So one person's sixth sense might be unique to them relative to the other.
Yeah. Okay. I want to pose this question.
I want to hear Kurt.
We can barely hear you, Kurt.
Your mic, fix it.
Then fix your mic.
Okay.
There you go.
Better. All right. I want to pose a question to the panel, and it would just make my day if everyone answered. All right. So, how powerful can a magician be? Go ahead.
I think a magician can be as powerful as he is alive. So powerful as his life force lets him to be.
I think a magician can go from the range of being a basic artist or singer all the way to being a full-on transcendental entity that can, you know, do incredible things, because once they reach the point of the body doesn't matter anymore, magic goes beyond the limits of the human. So
I think it scales with their ability to channel other people, to influence other people. So you only have your like nobody's all powerful, right? But if you are able to get consensus from more and more people, then their power becomes your power in a sense. But it also, you know, that can go dark or it can go light.
Yeah, but you know, like this is sort of like I'm talking about the sort of Jedi thing where they become one with the overall collective soul, and that makes them like, I mean, it's like a Buddha who transcends versus one who stays on Earth, you know. And so
I think I would say that a magician's strength heavily relies on their ability to maintain their powers, whether it's through other people, through a specific craft, or even the tools of that craft. So because everything is in a state of decay. So like no matter how powerful you become, your power level is only as strong as you're able to maintain it.
Life force, yeah.
Sure, but that true power can't be maintained in this physical form, and that's why we offshoot it to other humans, and we go, oh, how much can we control other humans, and then that's becomes our source of power. It's like the powerful people, they feed off of the magic energy of other people, basically.
Of course. And to sort of let me just sort of ground that metaphor into two different things. Let's say like with a skateboard, if that is the way that you express your wizardry, your skills with that tool are going to decay if you don't maintain them, and the more that you use that skill, the more degraded your tool becomes. You could say the same with guitar. You know, it's like your power to influence people with the guitar is only as strong as...
This is my rifle.
So close. We lost him.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with it, but you know, like it was said, it's about the influence of the person. So like, you know, skateboarding is great. It does help a lot of people, but it also can have a negative influence. If you look at people like Bam Margera, who have definitely created these sort of like destruction oriented people who take everything for granted.
Damn,
And
throwing
so
shade on Bam.
I better, yeah. I mean, he deserves it. He threw shade on he should. I mean, he has.
He
thrown
threw shade on the
himself.
world.
No, but he threw shade on himself in the end. You know,
Son of a bitch.
we lost
All right,
you.
okay.
We lost you at the end.
Let
Go
me
for it.
Sorry, yeah. All right, just to complete the thought, it's like your guitar can go out of tune. You could break a string, you know, even the electronics and stuff, like the stuff wires can get crossed to your input jack could get worn out after a while. So it's like, it doesn't matter how good you are at the fucking thing, if like what you're using, like whether it's the internet, if it's a whole boardroom of people that you command, you know, it's like you have to maintain those relationships. And you have to maintain your relationship with your instruments of your magic craft.
Yeah.
I love all your answers.
That's all I had to say about that.
Just remember, you are the magic instruments, so you better take care of yourself.
I love being played.
Yes.
Andreas sent me
Oh, I didn't
a
answer.
video. Go ahead, Andres.
No, it's fine. I can
No,
let you finish. He sounds like I might have some.
Andreas
Okay.
is currently an AI stand-in. So
Yeah. Andreas you were cutting out just a little bit, but we'll get to hear from Andreas here in a second. Andreas sent me a video of a girl that could essentially burn people with her hands.
Oh,
and
hell
so, yeah, it was
Chlamydia?
incredible. And
I've seen shit like that before, dude.
yeah, I've seen
It's
stuff like
crazy.
It's like X-Men.
Well, all these monks will talk about, you know, all the chi force that lies
Chi
in
mastery,
your hands, you know, and yeah, so like that's definitely related to kind of that Eastern theory. So what kind of metaphysical stuff do you think we're capable of? I guess
I think
we're
we've had
capable of
powers.
I think we're capable of flight, like human flight.
I agree.
telekinesis of the body.
You know, I think that we probably had some sort of ki chakra mastery at some point in history, and we lost this sort of technology, this sort of knowledge.
Well, this is why you have to put
we-
fluoride in the water. So
but
that
yeah,
if
but
we-
that may be part of it. It's to suppress the magic third eye like source.
I mean,
basically.
I said this is basically what I was saying every time I ask. Like, imagine a world where everyone could make themselves happy or sad using just their thoughts at any given time. That is a magical world, you know. Because if you could,
we already are in a
completely-
magical world. So.
exactly. So, like, if you
I could do that shit.
Exactly. So if you expand upon that, like no matter what it is you're doing, you'll never get in your own way. You'll never be the person who gets in the way of you like endeavoring to create something or to learn something or to change something.
And you know, these are things that you always have to be working on yourself for, though. Like sometimes you catch yourself, right? Like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's a constant thing.
Yeah, but this is why practices come into play. And I think like, you know, for me, it's not like I was trying to pursue self-mastery or anything. I just wanted to learn how to use a samurai sword. But in like practicing that shit constantly, I guess you become like more conscious of things, especially like yourself and your own thoughts and your own emotional blockages and all that stuff. And I think when you
I do feel like the power is. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
no, please.
I was just saying, I feel like the link to whatever this is, because we all do have these like strange intuitions if we pay attention, but it almost feels like it's really like artificially cut off somehow, and it's kind of a mystery to me. In the background of my life, like I'm always like kind of pondering like what, you know, why is it that because I do experience mind over matter very like convincingly in my life. Often, like yesterday. I won't tell the story right now; it'd take too long. But like it's very clear that there's some element of that. But why is it that it only comes in these little trickles when it's already there? I feel like the potential is higher than we have access to. It's like maybe it's the fluoride. I don't know what it is, but
I think
it feels like
it's because
we're
the human
capable of
form,
more.
We are capable of more, but there's a cap to it, and humans would probably just burn up under the pressure in their current state. Like, I mean, think of like physical exertion as you have it now, and imagine being able to jump over a mountain. You know, like the physical exertion and the energy that comes with that, it does relate to reality. It would mean more food consumption. It would mean more resource use. It would mean either having to change the resource use entirely.
Sacrifice, some kind of evil sacrifice to like.
Well, I think the best sacrifice is food. Like if we can get rid of food as a pleasure item. No, but I mean like different sources of energy. Like if you can tap into like, if we can find photosynthesis.
Yeah,
like
that's
as
good.
A source of energy.
I always love that.
You know, like convert humans to being able to do that instead of like killing animals or killing nature to eat it. Totally. So
it might be already locked away in our DNA. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it might be. You know, like I said, it's like technology that we forgot about.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Andreas, write out your thoughts.
Yeah,
and
I think
we'll
a lot of our skills have been nerfed.
That's what I think. It feels like it anyway.
I mean, when it comes to all this stuff, like I was always very interested in it. Like even something like remote viewing or like or like telepathy or something like that. But I never thought it was one of those things you should ever really seek, because if it does reveal itself to you, I think it's like I'm always thinking cosmic occurrences work with like irony or under ironic pretext. Like if you say oh, I don't really care about like all these crazy woo powers like levitation and all this stuff, but then you do seek like the other things, like, oh, I want to cultivate say consuming in a healthier way, in a less destructive, more ethical way, and that's going to build you up. You know, that's going to build up something inside of you, and who knows, maybe that does open you up to perceiving like all the weird stuff. But you know, that's my take on it. Yeah.
Well, people no, but the thing is that it's all about the myth we wind around it. You know, like people don't care about levitation, but then they'll gladly get in a plane. So it's like, yeah, human flight is possible, but we just have to put it through jump it through hoops of science to make it happen. And then people are like, yeah, okay, this is it. I accept it as it is. But maybe it's all because we all believe it'll work. You know.
Well.
Right, I want to tell you guys a weird experience I have really quick, if that's okay. Before
we're gonna have to read. Okay, well, he has a lot. Andreas has a lot to say.
Yeah.
So this is kind of weird. I'll just say it. So, like, I feel like I am psychically locked out of astral projection. It's really strange. Like, whether I like it or not, it's gotten to the point, and it's been more and more over the years since I was like 15. Every once in a while, like I would have this experience where I'd like start vibrating and like feel really weird, and I'd get all scared and I'd come out of it. But now it's gotten to the point that it's literally every single night of my life when I lay down to go to bed, I have this experience, and it's gotten so powerful to the point that I literally have started fading into a white room. I start seeing white everywhere, and that was happening for about a year, and I'd shake out of it. And now the last month, I am starting to see like people, and then I shake out of it. It's really weird, man. Like it's like there's, you know how like Naruto, he had like that fucking seal on his stomach. I feel like I have that on my astral.
Right, so it could be what you're describing then, including the Naruto metaphor, is that you have like a demon that you're fighting inside of you. I mean, it could be a like an energy parasite that is keeping you from the psychic realm, or that the psychic realm has to be protected from. And I think that dwells in most people, probably. You know, I think that's the serpent, the old dragon that we're all contesting with, and most people are not granted just free access to the astral realm because they're bound here by the dragon.
Right, and it's weird though, because it's gotten to the point that I'm not even attempting to do it. It's like a natural thing that happens now. Like I've trained myself in some way to do it so naturally, but I am like not allowed to exit. Like I am only allowed to like peer into it, and then it's over. Like no matter what I do, I don't get scared and pull out of it. Like I don't even consciously have a choice to even try to stay there. I'm blocked.
Maybe humanity's in quarantine.
I think
Yeah.
Prison
I think the
planet.
real path towards like real psychic connection with whatever this stuff is about, like astral projecting, you really gotta also look at it from like an inward angle. Like you don't necessarily have to constantly try to like view external things. Like for example, if you look at your own life and your own timeline, you know, as far as your own consciousness is concerned, there's like so many different paths it could take. Like if you believe in that sort of thing, like, oh, every decision you make, you're pretty much creating a whole separate reality. I mean, I think more than seeing like making psychic contact with other people across the world or aliens or whatever, I think before that you'd have a way better shot at like making contact with your future self, for example, you know, like talking to like yourself 15 or 10 years later, maybe in a more idealized place, and you could ask them, what did you do to get there? You know, like what did you do to get to this sick ass place? I want to know, I need to know. And they'll tell you.
I think it's less likely because it's less likely people will attempt it. People are more interested in contact with other life forms and other entities and stuff.
Yeah,
than they are going, hey, future me. The thing about talking to your future self is that you end off with these literal like time travel problems where you're like, okay, I spoke to my future self. Now I have a choice to actually go and become that or become something else because you see the future. So I mean, talking to your future self is, I mean, it's either real or it's a projection of the mind, really. But
then again, like it's all real, because like if everything, it's all it really takes is a shared intention to connect all the selves, right? Because like if you, for example, if I endeavor to be a person who makes contact with Chris 5 years or 5 minutes beforehand, and then 5 minutes later I actively do this, you kind of just expand that, you know.
Andreas put this up here. Feel free to read all this. To respond to Mr. Stevenson, I'll just use your online name here. I think that's most appropriate. But yeah, like when it comes to getting into the dream state, what I've noticed is like you always have the best ideas right before you go to sleep, right? So like I've tried, remembering what I wanted to, like write or like art I want to do right before I go to sleep. So I think the only solution is just to like do it as soon as you get like really, really sleepy. Yeah. So it's, I'm going to start, just like journaling, like as I'm starting to drift away. And so now for sure, as far as like, there will be random spots where I feel like, I'm seeing very, lucid hallucinations before I go to sleep, not during the dream, like before actually going to sleep. So that's something that's definitely new in my 30s. That I never really experienced that in my 20s. When it comes to how we interpret things, I think we have a mass sickness of ontological thinking.
Mass illusion.
So, mass illusion. So when someone, for example, like, say there's the story of someone lifting a car to save their dad, it just fell on them. They just squat down, pick it up. Like if you watch a documentary on that or a news report, they'll try to give you 15 different points of like what was happening. Like, oh, there was lots of the stress hormone cortisol and lots of adrenaline was steering through his body. And so it tries to point to all these parts as a cause to why a person was able to lift the vehicle. Instead of, the much simpler using Occam's razor, like, wouldn't you want to just say, like, hey, they just really cared about their father, that's just like, that's a much, easier explanation, but it's one that we refuse to gravitate towards in our current mode of thinking. And that's probably much more to our harm than our benefit. So
they did it because they were required to. They had to.
Right. So like if we think in things in more spiritual terms, I think we would, trim a lot of the fat. And I was about to read all of those different types of magic on
you took it away.
And you took it away from me. But yeah, I think, okay.
Yay.
All right, so we have illusion, manipulating perception, tricks, and spectacle to deceive the senses. Symbolic, using symbols and rituals to focus will and influence outcomes. Energetic, magic, directing subtle, unseen forces to create change. Archetypal magic, very underrated one, in my opinion. Engaging myths and universal patterns to shape reality. Alchemical magic, transforming self or environment to achieve spiritual or material refinement. Natural magic, aligning with universal laws and nature's rhythms. Divine magic, acting as a channel for the divine, co-creating with universal will. Realization, recognizing reality as a manifestation of consciousness.
I said
unity
that.
with all. Thank you. Beyond realization, embracing the infinite mystery and the continual unfolding of existence.
I said that.
I think Andreas wanted us to read that.
My man.
Yeah, I won't draw
me of another weird.
He said Andreas says
phenomenon.
energetic magic is psychic magic.
I think psychic magic is a subset of energetic magic. Like psychic energy is a type of energy.
The most observable experience, the most observable thing to this in the material world is what? Like in physics, like particle physics or something. You observe particles, and just by observing them, they change. I'm not like a science person at all, but do you guys know what the double slit experiment?
Double slit,
yeah. So that would be kind of like a manifestation of psychic magic on the most like crazy fundamental level, but yeah, that's like kind of like that.
Yeah, well, it's literally like psyche magic, right? Like the psyche influencing reality.
Yeah, kind of like nudging things along, you know, in like a specific direction that you want to go using like your intention. And I think that's powerful.
But here's the thing: what if we're nerfed because we were engineered to be these laborers, and what do we do with most animals that we have that perform labor that we don't consume for flesh? We sort of make them easier to control, and what better way than to neuter our DNA?
Sure. But it could be that it's sort of like we had a lot of power and then we misused it, and so we were prematurely empowered.
Yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy came.
We got power before we had actual wisdom and knowledge, and so we overdid it, and so we had to learn to
walk before you run, huh?
Exactly. So it became locked away until humanity could actually ascend, because we became a bunch of like violent, angry, tribalistic, like all that stuff.
Speaking of locked away, will you guys tell me if you've ever had this experience? This is another thing where I'll have these amazing epiphanies in these kind of hypnagogic states every once in a while, like these amazing epiphanies that like I should have no business knowing these thoughts, and then they just come into my mind, and as soon as they come into my mind, I'll like look back and try and like interpret it or like remember it. It's gone. It's gone. But I have there's no way to, because it's immediate. As soon as it comes into my mind, it is gone. And it's like, and they are like arcane things. They are total realizations that feel so real.
It's
as soon as I think of them, it's over. It's over. And it's
kind
gone.
of like a dream.
I can't access it anymore.
I think it has to do with DMT production. It's kind of like when you have a dream and then you wake up and you're like, oh yeah, it was about this, and then you're like, oh wait, no, like I'm losing pieces, It's
it's exactly like
slipping
that
through your fingers. And the same thing happens on certain psychedelics. Your brain goes into overdrive, and especially tryptamines, and then your brain is so accelerated that it's either solving problems in real time so quickly that it moves from problem to problem, and then you just can't actually hold on to any of the information.
I think it's a muscle, though. I think you could work it out. Like
the most frustrating thing.
You can squeeze that gland.
Yeah, the more you focus on it, when you get those flashes of inspiration, I think you could actually like make it more integrated into your being. And sometimes I think of it like, learning a skateboard trick. Like if you're trying to like learn how to kick when you try to learn how to kick for the first time, you get it, but then like it's not consistent yet, because you're just like, oh, I just got this flash where my body just knew exactly what to do at the right moment. But then you keep doing it over and over again, and eventually it's like, oh, it's like second nature to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bro. For all I know, I could have like had like straight up new Tesla inventions like slip into my mind and out, and like I wouldn't even know because I can't remember. It's just like these amazing ideas and they're gone.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Alas,
aren't we just vessels for the field of consciousness that exists
That's it.
constantly all around us?
You know, like you're accessing the noosphere, and you're just channeling in that moment, and you have all the information from like the Akashic records or whatever you want to call it, and you're just going like channeling that stuff, and then it comes in as fast as it comes out.
With a really good sense of humor.
But you know, if you're not looking for it, then why would your brain hang on to it? So it's like you're only going to really latch on to things that you're seeking. Otherwise, like your brain just goes, well, that's not really, and then it just goes away, you know?
Huh. Yeah,
like,
I think my muse is just really funny. You know what I mean? Like, I've got a muse that just like hangs around and it's like, hey, here. No, just kidding.
But
here.
Think of it this way. It's like you opened a top secret document filled with numbers. Are you going to remember all the numbers? No.
Hell no.
There's like a huge amount of numbers. You don't know the context of the numbers. You don't know what they mean. You don't know any of it. And your brain's just going to go, oh, okay. The general number idea instead of like actually assimilating each number. Too much information. It gets compressed and compartmentalized. Yeah. It gets put into the back. So you still have the information. You do. It's just it's in your unconscious. It's not.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You have it because you accessed it. So of course your brain just goes, okay, somewhere back there, if ever, I need to channel this shit again.
It's amazing how much information can be packed into one thought form.
Yeah.
Like and visualized, but then it's gone, right? Because it's too much. It's too complex. But that it can even. It's almost like your brain can only contain the idea, but it can't contain the information stored within the idea. It's like,
well, this is why symbols are so powerful.
Kind of like, it's kind of like when authors forget what they wrote. You know, they'll create these entire worlds. They write 20 books, but at some point there's so much information. He's like, okay, how can I remember what I wrote 12 years ago in a 1,000-page book like that is one of 20? And of course, they forget some stuff because it's too much information. But by actually manifesting it through art, they manage to immortalize it and to actually make it be basically a database. Because we're not databases.
Chris is about to tell me to journal. I can sense it. I can feel it.
Actually, what I was going to say is that storytelling is probably my favorite form of like packing in tons and tons of information into like something. And you could also say the same about symbols, right? If you think about just like one number, and that's basically a symbol with like a crap ton of implications and information stored into it. Same thing with any letter. If you look at a letter, that's like a whole sound, a whole use case for it.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. I agree.
You're
with
right.
you.
The way that I put it is that everything is coded. It's like it's loaded with codes, and you can decode things out of basically anything. So there's so much information in any given.
I mean, this is why Jesus was such a fan of parables, because through one parable you could say like so many profound truths and wisdoms without explicitly saying it too. That's the best part, because that's how people work psychologically. They're not going to adopt an idea if you try to force it onto them, but if you make them like
get the gears turning, get the gears turning, make them start thinking about it, and they're like, oh yeah, I shouldn't murder people, right?
Yeah.
Took a long time for people to figure that shit out. Like, right. Someone made it official,
Shit, he's got a point.
Good storytelling. Some comedians are really good at it. Like it's a really hard form of humor to like really get down sometimes, because it's all about delivery, substance, and misdirection. Like it has to surprise you,
right? Well, I think that's the difference between a prophet and a tyrant. It's that a prophet will actually be able to just make the information be validated by its very content, while the tyrant will just be like, oh, you don't like it, well, fuck you, I'm gonna force it on you and you have to take it.
Yeah, and it's also interesting how like the prophet can take different shapes. Like you have the wounded healer, like someone who literally got like raked through the coals, burning coal, just so they could realize like, oh, okay, so there's so life isn't completely meaningless. I still managed to laugh about something after everything I've been through. So it's not all
Shout
bad.
out to Jason Bradfish.
Yeah, and there's also some people who just, I don't know, maybe they wanted to be at the top of their game in athletics, and in order to get there, they had to like sacrifice so much. And it's like, why did I do this? Why am I doing this? What am I really? Am I just what I'm doing right now? And then they come through their moment, their oh shit
And then
moment.
they get tempted. They get tempted by the devil.
Yeah,
with steroids.
Yeah, so I think like
steroids.
Yeah, it's cool how life really is just like a multiple branching path.
Yeah, it's true.
That all leads to the same direction because we all die. Yeah.
Every day is a winding road.
You know, it's so close, Andreas.
God damn it.
I'm trying so hard, bro. It's terrible.
You got that through. You got that through.
At least he's with us in spirit. He is like the guardian angel right now.
Just keep talking and eventually you'll get it.
Brain transducer. Right? What if the brain is a transducer, not just a contained information processor, but a transducer? So receiving information in the air around it ethereally.
Oh,
and there's been a
like
number
an antenna?
Like a receptor?
Yeah, like your system from the nervous system that spread out through your body. Nervous system. Can we see like a picture of one?
Right, it's like the mycelium inside the body.
It's this crazy, weird intranoding network. And then the rest of it is designed to process signals that are coming in and out. So the signals that are coming in and out, maybe this is the same for all animals on Earth or something. Like there could be an Akashic sort of field that produces identities. And that's perhaps even linked to, I saw this earlier, connecting it to Alzheimer's research. That
so
when your being is coming and going and preparing to world bridge, right? Which is like a lot of cultures say world bridging is.
So perhaps there's a sort of magic attempt to mess with this field and mess with human identity, with perception of self, or maybe it's all part of the process,
or maybe by
mind
nature.
Control towers, bro.
Maybe by nature, our brains are just like these chalices that like accept spirits like different like chemicals, and then they all form and create this homogenized substance that is actually who you are, and we're all just like amalgamations of like different spiritual energies into the cup, like different combinations, just making different things.
Hopefully not. I think that's true for a lot of people, though. I think that is true for a lot of people. Honestly, it's what a lot of religions are all about, is like trying to avoid that happening. A big part of that, I mean, because if your blood is filled with crystals that are antennas for radio signals, and it's picking up on demons or whatever you mean by that, because I guess there's also eudemia. What's it? What is the word, Vincent?
Eudaimonia.
Oh,
yeah.
Eudaimonia.
Which is the perfect demon, right? Or the good.
Yeah, eudaimonia is like integration of the good spirit, the good daemon.
Yeah. So a lot of what we're taught is that can't be a thing, but isn't that exactly what they mean by Adonai Elohim or something when you say angel? It's essentially eudaimonia.
Yeah, it is just different frameworks. I mean, the word daemon only came in at that point. Like they took it from the Greeks and they changed it. And
well,
I don't. Be similar to being in touch with your higher self, or is this different?
That's what.
Yeah, pretty much. It's integration in the higher self. The higher self is kind of is your higher spirit, right? So just
because your mind is like. Just because your mind is like works as like a chalice kind of doesn't mean your soul is like strictly like synonymous with that dynamic. You know, it could just be like your soul is separate from your mind, and your mind functions as a chalice where you pour in all sorts of different things, and it concocts into like your ego or your mental identity, your psychic identity. Whereas your soul, your true divine spark, that's of God, and that's like the holy part of us. That's not corruptible by demons or spirits or whatever.
Right. Well, that's why we're severed from the astral realm for the most part. It's because at some points we might be too entangled with the worldly demons or the psychic demons, and then the spirit has to protect itself.
You ever heard the theory that we're all the angels that fell, and we're actually the angels?
Yeah.
We were sent to the earth to atone.
My hypothesis is that we are like subdivided demigods. So like our consciousness has been subdivided into multiplicity, and we're probably like each higher dimensional entities that have like we're of the same spirit but subdivided. So we meet people that are very, very similar in spirit. We go, wow, you remind me so much of this person, and it's because they are actually the same, like an avatar of the same.
Like one of
god,
us are
basically.
Saturn, one of us are
You know, like-
Saturn, and one of us are Jupiter.
Well,
like
more
part
like
of
more
that
like
collective or something.
more like 100 million people are Mars or Saturn or
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I don't know which, like, you know, the names are not the things. The things are,
Right,
are the
right.
things, and so that we just
Yeah,
name
just
them
for
more
instance.
different all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, but like, you know, in Hinduism, you have the highest god, the godhead, and then you have the lower avatars, and then lower and lower and lower, and there's avatars in human form of each god, but they all have multiple avatars. And I lean towards this sort of model, and perhaps angels as well, because I think we're all made of the same stuff, you know,
Star
the same
children.
God. Exactly. So maybe we're trying to grow our wings back, you know, or grow, you know, like maybe that's the goal. Maybe it's like God needed
What
more
human-
angels or something.
What human has ever not wished to be able to fly that's ever lived on this planet? You know what I mean? Like,
I'm gonna
I think
say
it's like
mole people.
it's almost like it's missing. It's almost like it's missing from us, and we realize it's missing. I used to joke that I wanted to just go so far and study so much in life that I could become like the next Da Vinci, so that before I died, my parting gift would be wings for humanity.
That's beautiful.
I put that on my. I wrote down goals, life goals one day, and that was my number one top goal. Was to.
Yeah. Do you know how?
But
you
I
know
wouldn't
how,
be able
like,
to
how-
use the wings. I would just give them and leave.
Do you know how important that is, by the way, what you just said, that like virtually hardly anyone ever does anymore, which is like when you're younger, relatively, like you write down who exactly you want to be, like what kind of qualities like you want in a person within yourself. And apparently people used to do that more often back in the day, and apparently we don't do that nearly as much. I just thought that was interesting, you know.
You know what number 2 was?
What?
It was I wanted to create a music box that everybody could be a composer, and you'd only be limited by your own imagination. So you wouldn't have to have the ability to play instruments, because that's like very difficult for some people, but they may have this amazing, beautiful imagination.
Well,
so if they could just create the what from their imagination purely, then it would like level the playing fields, where who's popular would actually just be who has the dopest imagination for right now, you know, or like who's resonating the most with everybody with like the music they make.
Well, you could just get
that
like
would be cool.
You could just get Ableton on your phone or FL Studio on your phone, and
You know, but that's the thing, that idea is in the noosphere. You know, you were accessing that concept that like other people are also actively working towards in some form or another. So it could be that your dream is coming true, but you know, like having access to the idea through the noosphere doesn't mean you will be the one who ends up doing it. We all have ideas.
Yeah,
I've had so many ideas where I'm like, oh shit, that would be great, and then like 5 years later, oh fuck, someone like did it, like basically.
I was trying to look into the future to what I thought, like with
they stopped him.
Science or whatever, being able to, by the time I'm 88, you know, evolving to an extent that like maybe people could grow wings and power them with like an Iron Man, you know, chest thing or some shit, you know, like, because your body wouldn't be able to do that, your heart would explode, right? But something could, maybe.
If only there was a certain type of energy that's been hidden from us for many decades that could access all sorts of future technologies.
If only.
Zero.
That's actually what I had in mind. That's what I had in mind, to be honest, at the time. So
soul
I love
power.
it that you said that. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite conspiracy theory subgenres, which is the energy thing. How the government, like humanity, has many times discovered how to like create perpetual energy through like or perpetual motion devices and create infinite energy or something, or at least hyper efficient, like something like the size of a cigarette box could power some like a whole car or something. And yeah, I like that stuff because it, you know, it tickles the imagination. You're like, well, if we did have access to super efficient, super abundant energy, which we probably already do, I mean, and it mostly makes you angry. You're like, what?
It's about distribution, right? Because if the people have too much power, then they're harder to control. And then if things get out of control, things can get very, very bad. Infinite energy is fantastic, but it's like giving car keys to a toddler at some point. Like you gotta.
It's like
hard to tell. I mean,
it's like the video game Golden Sun, Chris.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't give power to the to people. Of course, you know, like I think that we need to have free energy and we have to actually work towards this. But you know, like I've seen people who just shouldn't drive. You know, like they shouldn't drive. So, like, why the fuck should they be given infinite energy? It's crazy. Like, not yet. Not yet. They can barely fucking drive. Like,
I mean, it'd be like walking nuclear bombs, dude. Like everybody would be like so powerful. You know, I'm not saying they're literally nuclear bombs. I'm just saying real here. They would have so much power they'd be able to affect so much.
No, you know? Dude, 99% of Americans at least will be like, wait, you're telling me I don't have to pay my Con Edison bill anymore? That's really all.
Yeah. It's the 1% that become dangerous.
Oh yeah, because you're saying you're like, oh, I wonder how many servers I can hook up.
Like, can I make a nuclear reactor in my garage? You know, people have done it. You know, like, let's just make nuclear reactor. Let's make a nuclear dirty bomb.
Yeah, they would create unseen horrors or unthinkable horrors
in Minecraft.
Even with limited power, they have. So
right.
Yeah, unlimited power. So, but you know, the applications. I mean, essentially, like you'd be able to figure out how to cure cancer.
Yeah,
you'd be able to
be in the right hands, right? Like the applications could be incredible. It could definitely. I mean, like you said, medicine would revolutionize, and industries would revolutionize. Space travel would become a possibility at that point. Like we'd actually be able to maybe feasibly do it. Like,
and well, it would have to be, because if people stop dying like more often, then they're gonna multiply at a way faster rate.
I have a theory that like the more powerful beings get, the less they reproduce, because the ecosystem gets diluted by the power hierarchies. If you only have lions everywhere, the gazelles will never be around, you know?
Actually, I agree with you with the caveat that before that, there is a phase of like crazy destruction. You know, like when they make a breakthrough and then everyone starts like World War III over it. And then the remaining 1% of humanity that remains are the ones that like get to live in
Rest
utopia.
in peace, Atlantis.
Very possible scenario, you know, but like we can even see it scaling in our civilization. The more access we have to power, the more access we have to resources, the less we tend to reproduce, like overall, compared to countries in scarcity. Countries compared to
they're bored and they don't have nothing better to do. But I'm telling you, if I was me and my wife talk about it all the time. If we had more, we would make more.
Oh yeah. But I'm talking about overall. Like as a civilization, we've slowed down in our baby use, even if we have well more abundance than people in poor countries who have like barely what we have. And like, you know, even the poor people here, they have more babies than on average.
Maybe making children as a survival instinct. So like the more you are, the more you want to fuck, because it's like
also more labor.
I agree. I agree. It is more utilitarian, but the thing is that the more powerful you are, the less you need to win through attrition. The more you can win through organization and strategy and actual empowerment, as opposed to let's throw as many babies onto that trolley. Onto the rail and hope the trolley doesn't kill them.
Yeah,
and then
it's like you were all my mind children, essentially. If you can get enough people behind it, you know, on board your ideas through your strength of influence. Yeah, I got you.
See, but
But
this
you
is
know,
why in times
even hypothetical like races and species, like if you look at like the Frieza species in Dragon Ball, there's not that many Friezas around, and there's a reason for that. It's like the rule. It's like the Sith. There's only can only be 2 at a time because they would just all create basically scorched earth scenarios.
I think in
But
times
both
of
of those
abundance,
examples are villains.
but you need that's what I'm
Oh
saying.
yeah,
to
yeah.
avoid that, to avoid-
I'm not saying that power is necessarily good.
but to
I was
avoid
just
that,
giving an example of power.
in times of abundance, I think this is why it's like God has to come back into the picture. Like God is the only true divine authority that could actually like keep you straight when you have access to like ridiculous technologies or ridiculous forms of power that could ruin
Yeah,
the
come
lives
on,
of...
God.
Well, there's the reason there's only one true God, right?
Well, I'm saying it's like, well,
Come on,
pretty
God,
much-
come back.
No, I'm saying God is within you. I'm saying like in times of scarcity, God's not going to put food on your plate, right? But when there is food on your plate to keep you from over consuming and getting more than you need, well, God's there. And to be like, well, God says, no, you shouldn't take you shouldn't overeat. You know, we've had the sacred texts tell us basically the guidelines for a millennia. So yeah, I think that's what I mean when I said God should come back into the picture, not like literally like coming down from the heavens, but I'm saying within us. That's when we.
I
have
thought
to
you meant
start-
literally. I was hoping for literally.
I mean, that's what's the difference. You know, if God is reactivated within humanity, God literally is manifesting.
The real difference is that if like an actual God comes down to Earth from space and he's like, "Yo, I built like your species," people would flip the fuck out, and it would just like.
Yeah, but then you'd be like, well, who built your species? You know?
Oh yeah. The question would go down. It would keep going down, but that's what I'm saying. It would help. It would force people to recontextualize everything. They'd be like, "What is reality? What are our understanding of reality?" Because now, like, we built models currently
God did
about
not.
the nature. We built models about. Sorry, go on, Andreas. No.
No.
Go ahead, say it first.
Oh, I kind of lost track of my thought.
Do you think
We're talking
billionaires
about
could
nested
be
species.
unwitting machines for God?
My opinion is so bad. All right, God did not. What I told you, God did not make man. So like in the who molds man out of clay and like breathes life into him, but it's not what the gods want. It's something that's kind of like a trick against the gods that Prometheus, this Titan, does this, right? And so the gods who've been feeding on spirits and creating spirits to eat ever since they were fed to their father. You know, it's just like a cycle of consumption of life, like Death Eaters. These are Death Eaters.
Kronos.
Kronos is a Death Eater. So like this is, I think, a different kind of god than people like to think about. But it's also the god that the Marcionites and the Pauline Christians believed in. It was an angry, jealous, wrathful, vengeful god, a god that was a destroyer, right? Even for the early Semitic people, it was a volcano deity.
I don't know if Paul
was
thought
associated with
Jesus was
destruction of
a
cities.
crazy destroyer.
No, not Jesus.
Yeah,
Not
talking about
Jesus. That's
Well,
the
Jesus
thing.
was
Jesus
God.
is this new.
Yeah, he was revolutionary.
Well, at the time, they were saying that Jesus was this revolutionary secondary god. Like, actually, Marcion believed there were two gods. There was the angry, jealous god and the new loving god that Paul described. And this is why they wanted to essentially get rid of the Old Testament, because they're saying, look, the old God is dead, which is essentially the idea that a new God has emerged that was created. And then the Gnostics used this idea to say Yaldabaoth was this angry kind of spirit that was divorced of its wife, which makes its way into Greek mythology also.
You know, I still lean towards like the gods being multi-faced. Like, yeah, God has a wrathful, angry side, but he also has a loving.
Okay.
At which point in the process, you know, like
A lot of that wrath was going towards people that were eating babies and shit. So I don't know.
Well, I think the whole
you know, like it depends.
so
you know how savage we
I
were.
see. Yeah, I see like two kind of paths there. Like you have this religion of enslavement, which is designed to control humanity by channeling this devotion into the state, and it sacrifices. It's a big part of the ideas. It turns atonement into a sacrificial tradition for most of these cults. And you know, they emphasize submission. There's religions named after submitting. There's like tradition, dependency, and maintaining order at the cost of individual freedom, right? And that's a thing that's designed for maybe evolution. Like you get enough people to do that, it creates an ethno-state, and it creates a philosophy that people follow. But the alternative to that is that sort of Promethean spirit. And the Promethean spirit is the idea that, you know, the gods are not necessarily perfect, but they're within the realm of the capacity of humanity, and in a weird way, we're their next evolution, but that we're created not by them, right? We're actually something that's escaping them in a lot of ways.
I think really the whole point.
What I think was amazing about Jesus is that he created a direct conduit to God, rather than like obey this God and like do what we say because we know God better than you. Like the whole idea of Jesus that I see is that it represents like, here's a conduit to go directly to God for every person. It like, you see what I'm saying? It brings it down to level.
But on a practical level, like when it comes to the actual benefits of believing in God or a God, it's, I mean, what's the real thing? Is it to make us afraid? And that's why we do right? No, that's not the whole point. The whole point is for us to experience true gratitude, like real thankfulness, because that's it, right? You recognize an entity that's so powerful that's literally letting you live. So some people could look at God as the merciful king. Some people could look at God as a loving God. Some people could, but no matter what iteration, like even if it's wrathful, like you got to look at God as an almighty, all-powerful thing. And the whole point of that is to say thank you. Thank you for letting me live. Thank you for letting me experience this life. Thank you for letting me open my eyes this morning and, you know, like breathe my first breath of conscious air. Like if you live like that it doesn't really, everything else just kind of falls into place, because you won't be the one getting in your own way, you know, throughout your day at that point.
Well, you know, like if God has a wrathful side, why would you want to piss him off?
Yeah. And the whole point is like, oh, well, God is wrathful, but I'm alive. So thank you. You could wipe me off the face of the earth whenever you want. But I'm still here. So thank you. You know?
Yeah. That's when people say that, like, oh, you're God or whatever, like they're talking to Christians in this instance or whatever, right? Like, oh, your God, it sounds like your God isn't so good because there's people starving over there or whatever. And I'm always like, well, okay, but if they die, like they've been given, in theory, an eternal soul, so death becomes meaningless. So like, what's your point? You know, that's always my response, kind of. It's just and that you're even alive right now. I think that's also
right. I think it's interesting that the Christianity channels, like, so you have, before Christianity, you have worship in temples where they're literally giving their daughters to temples as a tax, walking across grass on the wrong days of the week and things like that. Because the actual value of someone's virginity according to atonement. And then you have forced genital mutilation, and this is not just in one religion, this is in all of them. So the essentially it's a crazy thing that's oppressing a lot of people. But then Christianity is saying, hey, you can take that energy and put it towards doing good deeds unto the poor and everything like that. Substitution of this ideologue anthropic God character. Because the other thing is, people are saying that they're responsible for what it is that you're getting. Your reality is really the, you know, thankfulness to the state. And the state is the celestial bureaucracy, and it's managed by these priests. So you have to escape that in some way, and the best way is to focus that energy on helping the poor so that you can make the world a better place, which then it's completely a perfect alchemical transformation of what would otherwise be like a terrible thing. Like in any other circumstance, it would seem like a religion would be a completely terrible thing, unless it was for the fact that it was helping people, right? Like I think that's a big part of why, if a religion was just constantly ruining people's lives all the time, which is what a lot of the time is the biggest critique against religion, then people wouldn't support it. Like it's
But you
all
can't
about
help-
that it has
But
to
you
be
can't.
helping.
You can't
people.
you can't sincerely help people unless you do it from a state of abundance.
Yeah.
And state of abundance, I think, can only come after like adopting gratitude. Like you have to be thankful for you to actually acknowledge your abundance and how much you actually have. So I think that's like there's no way around it. You know, if you want to walk any kind of righteous or holy path, you need to keep gratitude like as your number one like tool. Pretty much, it's like your shield, your armor, or whatever. As long as you remain thankful, like you'll be all right. You know.
Can we
you're
make?
grateful enough to give up what you have?
Can we? Sorry, I was going to ask. Can we make Yahweh and Prometheus? Can they be friends? That's my question to the panel.
I'd like to think they
All
are
gods
friends.
are friends, bro. Only humans aren't friends. Only humans aren't friends. Gods get along just fine. Like, hey,
Yeah.
we're chilling in the astral realm, and then humans like they fucking fuck with the
But Prometheus
gods.
is not a god. Prometheus,
No,
but Prometheus
one of
is not a
ours.
god.
He's one of us,
Prometheus
baby.
is not. He's a Titan. Yeah, or we're something closer to Titans than gods, maybe, if that's the case. I mean,
Well,
who's
yeah,
to say?
but it's
Because
kind of like
it changes the whole
kind of-
game. In that paradigm,
What's the
it's kind of a
in that
demigod.
paradigm,
sets them
then
apart from
Prometheus.
But godhood is relative, you know, like one person's god is another person's regular person. So it's like it really depends from where you stand. For gods, do you think they go around calling each other gods? Like, oh, you're a god, I'm a god. Like, no. For them, they're
What's
just
up, my
regular
fellow god?
people to each other. Like they're just regular people to each other, you know. And
Well,
like someone
but in
that
the-
we would.
But
Sorry,
the
go ahead.
gods are made. Gods are made. In the Greek mythology, gods are made. Titans are not made. Titans are kind of more primordial than made.
What are they, like
So
mud
it's kind
people?
of interesting that it's this idea that they're like Neoplatonic concepts.
Well, isn't
So
the
things
first-
like justice or love
but
Uh-huh.
they
or
birth
fear.
don't they-
or straight
Titans-
lines or
Yeah.
curves.
don't
or
Titans
four.
birth
So they're
gods?
like elemental.
But don't
kinda.
Titans birth gods?
Essentially,
often?
Prometheus and maybe some other, maybe it's like Clymena or something like that. Certain other Titans made Saturn. Then he's making his own gods in order to consume them, because I forget the exact reason why he gets a taste for consuming life at all, but he does, right? And then
You know,
that's also, I think, because that's why Saturn was created to help control all of the Titans, because the Titans were so wild and had all of these different ways of living or existing that it was just too haphazard, like glitching television
Chaos.
static. And then from chaos, it was chaos, and then out of chaos came the order of the gods, and the gods ordered reality. And then they created more gods, which then they consumed until they were released. And they
So wait, chaos,
Jupiter,
chaos. Essentially, gods
Zeus
emerged out of chaos.
kills Cronus, Saturn, kills his father, and then he gets a taste of blood. Order emerged out of chaos, but then they get a taste
Go
of
off,
blood.
King.
Zeus gets a taste of blood from eating his father. So, because the last thing he does, he makes him eat is basically he's eating his own father who's been eating him. So now he wants to eat, and he creates humans, or he starts eating humans, right? Because Prometheus has created humans for the purpose of because he's maybe there's something that's primordial. Yeah. So Zeus
Man, I don't
makes a
remember the
primordial
Hercules.
being before the human Adamites that are destroyed. Yeah, this is before Hercules. Hercules is way later. But yeah, Zeus creates a primordial being before the Adamites, which is designed to be eaten and consumed. And then eventually Prometheus, who's working with the gods, creates the first man, which has more spirit and more capacity than should be capable. And that's why humans are such a threat to the gods. Yeah,
Well-
that's basically the deal. Oh yeah, and then the god.
Reminds me of the Anunnaki and one of them leaving a bunch of cool shit in us that he wasn't
Because they'll
supposed
actually
to.
make something for you.
Yeah, full disclosure, guys. Everything we say to Andreas is going to
Yeah.
come to him like
Totally.
3 seconds later.
It's fine. But it's also it also links back to the tree of knowledge with the eating of the fruit, and then God goes, like if they find the tree of life, they'll become as we are, and so it's kind of implying that humans are a sort of half godling human sort of like bridge. But I think we're a bridge to both sides. We're a bridge to the demonic, and we're a bridge to the godly, and we can become more godly by going in that direction and accessing that force, as well as becoming more demonic.
Assuming the forbidden knowledge or the fruit, assuming that's a metaphor, what do you think the actual thing was? I think it was the word. When God gave humanity the ability.
I think it was a drug bust. I think it was a psychedelic drug, and it was most likely straight up the expansion of consciousness as a result of accessing certain things that would be normally reserved only for higher consciousness.
Oh, so that was the catalyst that made us.
Oh
start.
Yeah. It was the thing that unlocked our perception of the possibility of the good and evil existing and being a contact.
Like
before
angelic thought.
Before that, it was just
perspective of the angels.
Pardon, Vega.
Religion.
Pardon?
I was just posing the question if because the intelligence of dolphins is said to rival ours. Do you think that they've developed a system of morality or religion or spirituality because of how intelligent they've become?
I think they're perfectly in tune. And
if they have, my God,
so
they
fuck a lot of people. That's it. They have some fucked up morality about consent then. But
but it's not all dolphins are.
Hashtag not all dolphins.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you were to judge humanity by the worst of the worst, I would be like, yeah, screw those guys. Like, you know what I mean?
I agree. But I think dolphins are very much still in nature. They're still in sync with nature. They're still in the global intelligence. So their intelligence complements the intelligence of nature and the design of the pattern nature. While for us, we're in conflict with it. We're still struggling with it. Yeah.
What
so
if,
they're not.
What if ours does too? But it's just have, on a higher level. What if we just can't see it?
I'm not. I don't think that the context of higher it works there. I think that they're on a horizontal plane of power, while we're on a up and down of power, good and evil versus nature. And so,
but they exist more in a 3-dimensional plane than we do. You know what I'm? Well,
they might be 4D.
Dolphins do
we've all seen the Echo.
Dolphins do have hunting groups. They do have hierarchies. They do have pods, right? They adopt other dolphins. Female dolphins will adopt a dead widow foster care for other calves.
Dude, there's dolphins out there right now that are like,
if you think about it, social contracts.
They're upset that we're downplaying their achievements and their great society that they've built.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think that the greatness of the intelligence of dolphins is probably in their communication technology, their capacity to actually form these sort of social bonds and these sort of social structures, as opposed to having to go and build actual physical structures and ruin the ocean with technology and whatever else they could hypothetically do. Instead, they're like,
theoretically, dolphins have been observed. Yeah, there's evidence that dolphins have resolved disputes with nonviolent verbal methods. Right? So, they don't always kill each other. They definitely talk to each other before they do.
I was once swimming in the ocean, and a dolphin came up next to me, and carved into its back were actually a bunch of runes. I wasn't well versed enough to interpret what the runes actually meant, but I think they could be very, very.
Are you sure they were scars, not runes?
Looked like runes to me, like runes.
Dolphin Odin.
Wait. Maybe it was just like he used to work at Atlantis.
Oh, that'd be fun.
I think that'd be tattooed or branded.
It's it.
But yeah.
Were these the same runes on the crab?
Wait, did it say Poseidon was here?
Well, I think they kind of resembled, Nordic runes, and I have no idea how to read them. So it's like if you
said Atlantis, rest in peace.
That's wild. Actually, I wish I saw that.
Yeah.
That's
You got
pretty tough.
You guys
You-
ever
you-
look at? You guys
Oh,
ever
go
look
ahead.
at like a? I was gonna say, you ever look at a circuit board and think it kind of looks like runes the way it's all laid out?
Sigils. Yep.
Nah,
There's
man.
a whole. Where's that whole meme about it? About how the arrangement of a circuit is like channeling these dark.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah.
He knows.
I don't know. I still think you know you have mountains behind you right now, and I think mountains might just be natural computers.
Oh yes, this natural computer right here.
Yeah, this is just nature. This is Gaia's giant like fucking
Pyramid.
computer system.
Yeah,
That's why we dig. That's why we go dig through them to find all the minerals and metals to make the computers with.
Mhm. That
Right
looks
there.
like a great place to build a cabin,
Ah.
right?
Is that what you want to do?
Somewhere to
build a
write a
cabin?
manifesto.
Or a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Well, you better get to it before World War III breaks out.
Well, I have a contingency plan, but
Whoa,
I'm gonna
cryo-
become an expat.
Oh, I'm gonna cryogenically freeze myself.
I'm just gonna ride it out. You know, like
I'm
I'm
gonna
just
fall out it.
I'm just gonna pray to God, and I'm just gonna hope I don't get blown up or something, or in Minecraft. Or
Yeah,
actually, no, this
I-
is real. This is the real shit. All right.
I had a drawing back in the day. It was a Buddhist monk sitting under like a cherry blossom tree, and then there's just nuclear bombs dropping like on a city in front of him, and he's just sitting there meditating.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that'll go that way. They'll be like, yeah, we saw it.
Part
we
of
saw it coming."
my apocalypse contingency plan was my motorcycle, and since having that stripped from me, I'm trying to understand what the universe was telling me through that.
Maybe the
not
universe is saying
needing-
you need a better motorcycle, or you need a different motorcycle.
It might have been that you were putting too much focus on that. You know.
I don't
Like,
know.
it could
Motorcycle's
be.
pretty useful. Maybe do
It
you have a
is,
bike?
but you know, like of all the post-apocalyptic rides that are useful, you know, like
It was
you
more
need flat ground.
stylish.
So
Well,
you
Yeah,
need
you
more.
might,
A
you might
bicycle
want like a
would be
bus
better.
with spikes
Speaking
on
of,
it.
Well, when it comes to
did you guys?
post... Sorry, what are you saying?
Oh, I was gonna say a bicycle looks like it may be more useful.
I was
saw an
gonna say,
example
like,
of that
yeah,
today.
that's the best post-apocalyptic vehicle is a bicycle. It's either that or you got to go like as big as you can with like a whole RV setup.
Jetpack.
Extra fuel. Nah, that's I wouldn't want that. It's too noisy.
Too noisy. Silence jetpack.
That
Yeah,
would be
silence
something.
jetpack.
Like instead of
Yeah.
combustion, it uses like magnetic and electrogravitic technology or some crazy sci-fi concept.
Just
There
pure
we go.
CO2.
I mean, that guy on the bicycle today had a silencer. You know, those are pretty hard to get in New York.
Oh, a silencer for a bicycle.
Did you guys see that? No, am I breaking news here? Breaking news.
The CEO of Ultra United Health or something.
United, yeah.
Getting
What y'all talking about?
getting straight up like murked in the streets. one
Yeah,
morning.
the assassin came up on a bicycle in a shiesty and had a silenced pistol, and rode away on his bicycle.
Yeah,
Disappeared into the urban landscape.
yeah, you're right. It is
down.
kind of hard to get like stuff like that in New York City. I mean, people still do it, but it's usually like way up north. You know, like where all the real deal.
They
gangs
make
are.
make them themselves with like toilet paper rolls and stuff.
I don't know. Yeah, this guy, the CEO of United Health's insurance division, was gunned down Wednesday morning outside the Hilton Hotel in Midtown in what police called a brazen targeted attack. Brian Thompson, oh fuck it, he scrolled. It's all good though. Yeah, there's some pictures. Oh, he did roll up in a little street cruiser. Damn.
Well. Things are getting weird.
I wonder if he's got a tennis.
It's bad
ball
that
instead.
part of me is like impressed by the situation, even though it's a terrible thing to do.
Well, I have questions. I want to
Well,
know. why
from
he did
a
it.
skill point of view, is kind of perfect, you know.
I mean, does this guy does it look like he deserve a bullet?
Well, hold on one second. I'm about to send something to the Facebook chat that has a graph with some pertinent numbers in Invisible College.
All right, we're gonna look at some lines and bars that justify this guy's death, guys. All right, so just stick tight.
Hallowed be thy statistics.
Okay, here we go.
Claim denial rates by insurance company, and look who has the highest. Nearly 1/3 of all claims were denied by United Health.
Health
Crazy.
insurance.
What's it say? I can't read it.
What a
I
novel
can't.
concept.
I'm driving.
It says
What do we got?
32% of claim denial rates by insurance company. CEO Brian Thompson had the highest rate, 32%.
Yep.
Which is wild, because why the fuck do you have a company like that if you deny insurance? Like, what's the point of an insurance company?
Profits.
Yeah, but profit is a trash incentive when it's arbitrary.
They have one job.
Like if
They have one
inflation, if you can just print money and like dilute value that way, then like profit is arbitrary.
But for doesn't it also scale with like how like their actual client list? Like, do they have that many customers or that many like people on their plans compared to like those other companies that denied claims?
That's a good question.
Yeah, but it's about the lives that do get influenced. So
That's true. I mean, either way, it sucks. Like to get denied.
Isn't that percentage of all claims? I don't think that's 32% of their claims. I think that's 32% of all claims.
Every single insurance claim ever made. That's interesting. So one company.
That's my guess.
For the third of all claim denials. Interesting.
So you think
I don't
this
have a
was
calculator here,
vigilante?
but
have you guys ever had to like utilize like make a big medical claim? Like I've never gotten seriously wounded. I've been sick before, but I kind of just like powered through.
Okay. Sorry, get this. I'm reading an article. It says, so this guy's a CEO, so he's definitely got a multi-million-dollar salary every year. It's United Health is a huge company. Crime Stoppers is offering a $10,000 reward for information. Like I don't know, maybe they just wanted this guy dead. I don't know. That's kind of funny, I guess. I don't know.
Why should insurance companies? Why should insurance companies be able to deny medical claims whatsoever? Like that's what you're paying for, and then you have a medical need. Okay, now I am insured. Well, that is what I'm paying for. Like how can you justify not?
I think the problem is insurance in of itself, because insurance basically has people go like, oh, like, you know, I can fraud these people and make a bunch of money by pretending to get injured.
Like if it's denied,
so then the company justifies their denial by
it's
going,
not insured.
Well, if
so
you,
how
if you
can
get,
you call it? How can you call it insurance if you're not insured?
I agree. I agree. The thing is that it gets justified by the fact that people scam them. So
if you're insured,
like one evil justifies another, basically. You go, oh, someone's gonna scam us, so then we can deny whatever claim we want.
Yo, straight up, I think
it's bullshit. Of course,
I think if you do get hit with like a huge medical bill like that and you don't have insurance, you should just straight up not pay. Like, you know, like if you get into a motorcycle wreck or something and the hospital bills you like 20 grand, just say fuck you. You know, like straight up. If you want to be predatory, I could do the same shit.
Yeah,
man.
I didn't ask to be fixed. You just fixed me.
I'll have to work off the grid a little bit. You know, like what are you gonna do? Take back your care? Like I'm just gonna, you know, work as I'll be a little cash guy, you know, like a big cash worker for a little while. Stay away from banks. And someday, you know, someday you could
take back your care.
Someday you could write a letter to your creditor, you know, and just like cry to them, or just basically hire a company that just annoys the shit out of them. And I'm pretty sure they'll forgive you. You know, and hospitals, they have their own, you know, they got their own methods to make that back, right?
This is not medical or legal advice. Disclaimer.
And FYI, medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States. In 2022, 41% of Americans had some form of medical debt. So, leading cause of bankruptcy in the States. How wild is that?
Yep. So you say, fuck you. You can't have a credit card for a while. Just work cash jobs and that's it. You know, like screw it.
Well, it's great that we even have a such thing as bankruptcy and they don't just chop off your hand. You know, so there's that. I guess we could be grateful for. I guess.
Yeah, we're not
repo man.
No hand chopping.
We're not at the repo man level yet. You know.
Well, if we ever live in a
repossess your organs.
Well, if we live in a cyberpunk future where your limbs and organs can be like prosthetic and like detachable, and you miss a payment on your like crazy cool cyber arm, then suddenly like the company comes and they repo it.
Subscription based.
Yeah, there's a few more.
Your arm.
Yeah.
There's a weird musical about that. Repo Man, the genetic opera.
Oh yeah.
Repo Man, the genetic opera. It's wild.
Oh, we got Kurt. This is when Andreas wants Kurt to say something.
Probably. He keeps messaging me this whole time, so we'll see what he's got here. It's one second. He already mentioned the religions of enslavement. We already went through that, so I was a bit okay. He says nothing new. So in that case, I was going to say something. Let me bring it. Let me run it back. Fuck. What were we talking about?
We were talking about fucking over drugs. Hospitals and
drugs. Talk about drugs.
Subscription-based organ transplants.
Oh yeah, we were. I specifically have told my family, like, if I'm ever injured, like, do not take me to the hospital. If it's absolutely necessary, like, take all my ID off me and just like drop me off the front. I'm not going to give them a real name. It's like they can't detain you at a hospital, so it's like. Well, yeah, I think there are definitely some legal loopholes. Like, healthcare providers are a little bit gangster-like. So if they want to try to detain you to get your real name, I don't think they have the right to, actually. So I think the most important thing within our healthcare system is to stand your ground. Never go to a hospital if you can actually help it. Like, go to a clinic if you don't have a broken bone, I guess. But like, if you honestly, at this point, a shady veterinarian is a better option than going to a hospital. Or yeah, it's really depressing, I guess.
Marvin K. Hessel.
Dying is the better option. But no, if you look
Also
at the
not
way
medical advice.
if you look at the way healthcare is inflated in comparison to almost anything else, it's inflated even more than the price of a university degree, which is insane to think about. Like, I still, at this point, I have $50,000 in student loan debt. And like, I bitch about that all the time, but like, that is in just a 10-year span, that is almost next to nothing over the average, amount of debt that students are going into, like, when they complete the degree as of, this point. Like, the amount that it's gone off the rails has been absolutely insane. And so I hope people are really recognizing what's going on. It's not healthy to be a society of just, debt and debt transactions and interest is such a killer to people. So please,
in theory, if you give somebody a loan, it should actually be feasible and possible to pay back. And so, like, if people are just handing out these loans, they kind of get what they deserve by not being able to receive the money back, in a sense, because they didn't actually scale the price of school with the reality of what the degree is actually going to be able to afford them. So the whole thing is a racket, and they deserve what they get, as far as I'm concerned. If they don't get paid, they shouldn't have fucked around.
But the problem is those guys, they never get what they deserve, because their concept is, if they just lend out like to as many people as possible at like extremely high, unreasonable rates, then they're just going to get their money back eventually, or at pretty quickly. Like, if you especially if you come into an economy where people are like really hurting and they need to borrow money just to stay afloat with their businesses and stuff, they will have no choice but to take in like loans at crazy rates and really short terms too. So
that's how you cause World War II.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you're right, Colin. But then again, it's also, didn't they write about this in the Bible, like specifically saying like we should avoid things like usury? And
yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah. Usury it's a big deal not to do that. Indeed. Because the world history has a long history of usury really fucking things up and creating chaos, more so than maybe any other vice in society, as far as I can, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but usury might be one of the greatest collective sins of history that there is. So I don't know.
Speaking of borrowing money and owing lots of money to people, it's pretty crazy how China just pulled the rug on all precious metal exports. Like, they banned all precious metal exports to the US. So now we can't like borrow money from them to buy precious metals from them.
Yeah, they've been
to
buying
make
up gold
weapons.
for like 20 years. So
Well,
they
also just
finally
like stuff that
got
goes
enough, I
into
guess.
electronics and mostly like they're like a 50% supplier for all the precious metals that go into electronic goods.
Computers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Which, of course, the largest consumer of that is the military-industrial complex. Go ahead, Kurt.
Sorry, to backpedal a little bit, I'll put a bow tie on it. But like with student loan debt, so the primary, distributor of student loans is the U.S. government, and they actually don't. Sometimes the government does make a bit of a profit, depending on honestly, depending on who's in office a little bit. But, that can always change if people start mass defaulting on their loans. The government many times actually loses money on the whole the student loan program. So that's not to say the real issue is even distributing the loans to begin with. And so with the university system, I think if you think about people as a collective hive mind, the university system definitely has, hive mind aspects. The people that are part of the system are culpable. They know what's going on, but essentially if you have a decent, cushy job that's paying you well, it's very unlikely that people speak out to the degree that's accurate to their own jobs. It's only after they're fired or canned that, you'll get what people honestly feel about their positions. So if people know that the university system is a grift, but they're benefiting from it, this goes for professors too. They'll try to sell you the lie that your university education is valuable and going to get you places. From direct experience, I know that it was oversold quite a lot because they try to give you models over what happened over the past 30 years, over what's going to happen over the next 30 years. It doesn't make any sense. If the world is changing, that model is basically garbage. But a lot of people like their positions. A lot of professor culture, academia is very, very egoistic. So you like the attention, maybe a little bit of the responsibility that you come with being a professor. Sorry, I just want to take this moment to just mash shit on professors. If you're a professor, fuck you.
Oh shit!
No,
Shots fired.
Shots fired. I'm a little bit tongue in cheek here, but like I
want to hear you profess your dismay of professors.
Thank you. Andreas wants to pop in, and he said he wants to propose questions. Are extraterrestrial civilizations more likely to be benevolent or hostile? How might their values differ from ours in ways that challenge human ethical framework?
It depends on if they are interplanetary or not. I would say that for somebody to reach an interplanetary capability, that they would have to at least be able to cooperate to the level that they get there, because the Great Filter will keep them back from that. That's basically what I'd say.
But what if
Depends
they
how
have a
powerful they
huge debt that they owe and they need to go get resources from somewhere else to pay off that debt? But I think not a better question, but an equally valid one would be, which would be worse, a malevolent extraterrestrial group or an ambivalent one that just doesn't give a fuck what happens to us? It's like
actually, there's also a third possibility. There's ones that just they don't know how to deal with us. Like they know that maybe they had a hand in making us, or maybe they've always been here having to work with us in some awkward way. But maybe for them, it's like one of those two options, or the third one. It's like we
your
don't,
kids that won't move out of the basement.
Yeah, it's like maybe amongst them have arguments. Like, should we just wipe them out, or should we just let them rock? Should we just leave them alone? Like, should we just because we need them for some reason. So yeah, maybe they just don't know what the fuck to do with us.
Well, but there's also I like how Andreas said specifically extraterrestrial, like ones that are not from here, totally excluding whichever ones may have traveled in some direction of space-time, because we end up being them, because they would be invested in our prosperity, since without us prospering, they would not exist. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
I think that it depends on there's probably galactic warfare. There's probably galactic order, and they organize, and there's probably cosmic disagreements. So
that's how they'd be able to cooperate to be able to get off planet and be malevolent, maybe because they are warlike, because they have the outside force that make them collaborate to be able to get off planet. So there's possibly
it could be that alien warfare happens on a planetary scale over hundreds of thousands of years, because space and time is so vast and big that the actual warfare wouldn't just be the way that we think of warfare. It would be about basically how many souls in the universe can you get on your side, and then can you help they have on your side in the end, you know?
I like the time dilation principle that you bring up, because some of the craft, they say, from the outside appear maybe the size of, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 school buses, but on the inside, it's as expansive as a football field. Sorry for not using meters, rest of the world. This is how we measure things.
Right.
But yeah. So, but the reason, and they're able to accomplish that because it's some kind of like space gravity vacuum thing. But since it's also bigger inside, time is passing much more quickly. So abductees, whether or not they're full of shit or not, say that when they go inside and then they come outside, 4 hours inside was actually like, I don't know, a week outside. So they're experiencing time in a completely different way than we are as well.
It's like Enoch. The story of Enoch happens very similarly, where Enoch gets taken to space. He gets filled with knowledge. When he comes back, I think it's like 300 years have passed. Everyone he knows is dead. Then he starts a new bloodline and Noah and all that. So.
Speaking of time dilation, there's also the cases where those people who, I think it was called the 20 and back program or something, like supposedly you had people who were not abducted, but like trained as or taken as children and then psychically trained or something, and their or their consciousness was like or projected into another body or something, and then they lived like for 20 or so years as like galactic soldiers for basically Earth. You know, like Earth has this secret transcontinental black government that also has a crazy space fleet, and their recruiting is like apparently largely from like these people that with consciousness is uploaded into different bodies. They do their whole term of service, and then their consciousness is transferred back into their child's body or something, and then they live the rest of their lives like as a normal person. It sounds kind of hokey because like it sounds very inefficient, but maybe it's got something to do with like, I don't know, certain individuals' empathic abilities or something. Who knows? You're muted, Vince.
I just got super triggered by someone in the chat. Sorry.
Could be that we have like an Ender's Game scenario going on where like we are actually having this sort of psychic warfare through all the mediums and through all the channels that we use to basically live out or enact the mythology that we're also constantly repeating and constantly returning to and speaking about and living. Could be.
I used to get scared when I was playing Call of Duty back in the day online that I was actually literally like controlling a robot somewhere and killing people, and it would freak me out.
Indeed,
because of Ender's Game.
Can you imagine that? You know, like it's all like that's what we're working towards. We're working towards full on. Oh well, you're just gonna use surrogates to do actual work, so you're gonna be controlling robots to do labor instead of doing the labor yourself, and then you can minimize your ecological impact that way. You know,
that would solve the problem of taking people's jobs for sure. I like where your head's at.
Hey, it does make it more efficient than having to have everything run by machine, just by AI, just by robot.
Well, there does need to be some sort of like human monitoring just to make sure that humanity's interests are programmed into the system, and that the system is sort of continuing to progress in that way.
I agree.
Right? Yeah, that they're not like hiding like crazy plans when we're not there, we're not watching, and what are they doing?
And it also makes extremely dangerous work much safer. You know, like if we have robots that we control, like full on a full body robot that you're like, hey, send him into the nuclear reactor instead of those people.
Yeah, like undersea welding, bro. Like I hear that's really dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wish that we could get away from sort of the dangerous energy sources and start to be able to use the more holistic ones, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, like
but, there's some. Yeah.
Tapping into
the
soul
quantum
energy.
vacuum.
Yeah,
Exactly.
0 point energy.
And because so allegedly they're using it's powered by 0 point energy, but they're interfacing with the craft telepathically and telekinetically, and also that's how they're being built. They're being built through like a telekinetic 3D printer, essentially.
They're being manifested.
Precisely.
I mean, but I sometimes I play around with that idea, like when I'm like driving or just traveling somewhere. It's like, imagine you're not actually moving, that you're just going through the necessary motions to move reality and to shift reality around you, and then you end up there. And then when you think about like the way these alien ships are supposedly, like, they just completely blip out of existence instead of like like accelerating at all. I think that's like a case where, I mean, what could be, it's like, how everything kind of moves at a specific frequency or vibrates at a specific frequency. Like we vibrate at a specific frequency that kind of acts as coordinates within time and space. So if they just know how to like alter their frequency, like tuning a knob, like turning a knob, maybe that's really what it is. It's not even a question of traveling. It's just I'm switching my state from being here now to there now. And that would
right,
cool.
like their radio station.
Yeah.
Their radio station becomes like halfway across the universe or whatever. Like they are now in the radio station of that location.
Yeah.
In a sense.
It's the exponential extrapolation of writing your future self a letter. Basically, they're like instantly tuning their mind to that point in space.
So what it would feel like to be there.
It's all dimensions. Like dimension is just a measurement of something. Like the dimensions of a cube are literally just the measurements of it. So the frequency that you can tap into, that's just another measurement, and you can go and tap different facets of reality. The more facets you access, the more, I guess, complex you can really go. The more multidimensional you are.
So. Okay, so they say that they've measured and observed this universe expanding. That would sort of make each, breath of the expansion, or each sort of point of the expansion, like a new sort of like point across the spectrum. So if they could map and project the rate of that expansion, then theoretically, if you knew the sum total of all matter in the universe, you'd be able to tune your radio, for lack of a better word, to the specific point in the extraction, because it would have this sort of like space-time signature. Right? Does that make sense? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, like I call it like coordinates.
Yeah. So it's like, Big Bang Theory. Yeah. So technically, if you're going back, that makes sense.
What is the opposite of humanism? An ideology that diminishes or denies human dignity, reason, and potential?
Anti-life.
Capitalism.
Demoniacism.
Well, because it's like, what is it to be human, right?
Bad daemonia.
Because
I think the opposite of humanism is
when you bring up the
self-hatred, because that's like the real
anti-life.
Yeah,
anti-life.
Yeah,
everything that is anti-life is anti-humanist. Anti-natalism, I regard as pretty anti-human.
Deathialism.
If you worship entropy, basically, because we were talking about how to maintain your wizard status, it exists through maintenance and through honing and all that stuff. And if you give up on the maintenance and you're actively like destroying things, you're sort of like worshiping entropy in that way by sort of like helping it along.
Yeah. But truth is, like, it can't be all entropy. I think it's more like expansion and contraction, right? Like, pretty much how we breathe. We breathe in and out. I think it's like everything comes through phases of like contraction and then expansion. And then if all you have to do is just be aware of it, and if you're conscious of it, I think it's less being like toss and turn between the waves of expansion and contraction, and more like, oh, I'm just observing it. At least I know why this is happening.
Yeah.
I think the consciousness element of that is because you could consciously rearrange things, and that's mindfulness. You could rearrange every board and plank and window in a house, and technically you're destroying it, but you're doing it mindfully as long as you rearrange it. And I think conscious breath work sort of would work under the same principle, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Vincent.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's like the universe is breathing, guys. It's like the universe is a living, breathing thing.
I think you have to get in tune with the seasons of reality, with the cycles of the body, of the self, and of nature and time itself. And so, like, if you accept that this is part of cycles and this is part of that contraction and that expansion, like, you can accept it. Because like you said, you can rearrange your house, but you can't rearrange the bigger house. You can't rearrange nature. You can't be like, oh, hey, nature, stop having winter because I don't like winter. Like, no, you have to adapt to winter. You have to actually accept that both the outside and the inside has an ebb and flow to it that you have to get in tune to.
Yeah.
And if you don't,
you're not all powerful, Andy.
Pattern recognition.
And it's the refusal to be in that sync, in that ebb and flow, that causes anti-life, that makes people go like, no, I don't. I want to stop having babies and start.
But I think Andreas wants to hear Kurt's thoughts on life versus anti-life. Kurt,
take it away.
I'm very pro-life personally. I don't know about all of you, but I'm a fan of life. Go life! Yeah,
life's cool. Life's cool. Life is the coolest thing I've ever experienced.
Life to the max.
Yeah, I tried being unalive one time. It didn't work out so well. It wasn't.
I'm very glad that you are here, alive.
That could have been misinterpreted. I'm sorry if that was misinterpreted, but I don't mean that in any graphic way.
Dark way.
No,
I'm still glad you're here. Okay.
I meant it in a metaphysical way. Okay, so that's what I meant. No, Andreas pelted me with a lot of questions, and I did. There were so many I didn't know how to choose. So, you guys pick the question.
Which question? Hold on, I'm out of the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. I just saw this.
Just create one. Ignore Andreas and pick your own.
Well, we talked about pattern recognition early on. Vincent just brought up that you need to recognize a pattern before you could plan around it. And I'm sure that depending on how schizophrenic you are, you're observing a lot of social patterns sort of taking form. And how do we sort of like plan for it accordingly? How many of those social patterns are engineered in such a way where they could predict the way that we're going to react, or they're trying to force a reaction out of us?
Well, the thing is, you just have to remember that you can't control what happens to you. You can only control how you respond.
Now
none of us.
That's stirred my brain.
Yeah.
So I was watching the Fast and the Furious 6. So the only reason the only reason you watch the Fast and Furious movies is just because you like high budget action. The acting is just absolutely awful, and you accept that going into it. It's like, okay, I know it's just going to be a totally unbelievable storyline, and all these actors just absolutely suck. The entire plot line of the movie, it's going to ride on very, very recycled tropes and horrible jokes and horrible interactions and numerous penis jokes where like, how are you compensating for something there, buddy? It's I
just like big cars, man.
I just like big cars. So, but
I'm just a man.
I feel I feel like the exception to that was Tokyo Drift, though. Like that one seemed to have like a little more substance for some reason.
Yeah, because all the
Asian representation.
Yeah, the main character was the most masculine one compared to literally everyone else in the whole country.
My favorite World War.
There's
My
a serious
favorite World
attempt at
War
emasculating Asians.
Was World War III Tokyo Drift. That's that's how it feels nowadays. But yeah, so
remember when they used to steal DVD players?
Yeah,
that was the plot of Fast and Furious 1. They stole DVD player TV.
They were expensive. Like the Sopranos hijacked some Pokemon cards, but honestly, that'd still be good business nowadays. It'd be a better business than the DVD players. That also spurred. Andrew, you're great at that. But if I think about the other question, I'll let you know. But no, that's honestly what it made me think of. Like it's sometimes it becomes exhausting to look at our societal expectations and tropes, because like when it manifests itself into art, then it becomes, depending on your perspective, it does become very, very tired very quickly, because it's almost like, oh, they're reusing this joke here, they're reusing this trope there, and
man.
Yeah, the callbacks. It's all of society just becomes a callback, and you need those moments where art introduces other things that aren't part of the current social narrative. Even if you believe all stories are recycled, which ones aren't being recycled in the current moment?
Man, I just really want to know, when are we gonna get out of the 2000s? Like, when is this Groundhog Day gonna be over,
in about in a little under 1,000 years. So like, don't hold your breath, bro.
900.
Fuck, man, don't tell me that.
Years.
What do you guys think? 1 century at a time. 1 century. Just take it 1 century at a time.
We're already in the 4th iteration of the 2000s, dude. Like it's 2000s 4.0 right now, and I keep on praying, when, Lord.
But for some people, it's new. For some people, it's new. It's their first time. They've never seen the original Star Wars, so they have to see The Force Awakens. They don't know the whole thing is basically a reboot.
Just love Fate.
Yeah, but they don't have the benefit. They don't have the benefit of knowing what used to be and how good it was. So like they just think that everything in the world just sucks. Like they're gonna be suicidal, dude. Because they don't have a reference point of better times.
Then be a good parent.
Only good because we didn't know better.
Then be a good parent. Just be a good parent. That's what parents are for. Life is hard. Life is shit. But good parents, they go, here's a good fucking.
That much just a parent.
Here's a good 12 years to make you remember, oh shit, there is love, there is life, there is everything good in the world.
Right.
And then you get to adulthood and you go, oh shit, there is suffering, there is pain, there is atrocity, there is all these horrible things, but there is the good too. I remember I was rooted in it. I was fucking living in it, immersed in it. I could feel it. And so they try to carry that into the greater world instead of just, the hate.
Beautiful, man.
I think at this point, I think for me at this point, I've lost enough friends. Like literally, like since growing up, since like my teen years, I've had friends drop like flies because of crazy drug use. But going through that, I think like what that really taught me was that none of us really have to be here. None of us have to be alive, and we just want to be. And if I remember that like no matter how bad things get, like I don't have to be alive. Like if I died, like the world would keep turning, nothing would really change about the world. People's lives wouldn't suddenly stop, after my passing. So really I'm here because I want to be. And that means any struggles that befall me, I'm pretty much because I want to experience those, so it's like, it helps to like kind of not take things too personally, and I think that really helps. And I think that's a good way to alchemize like bad experience. Cause those were like shitty times, when like your friends start dying.
But things it's that thing of like life comes and goes, and you come to terms with that. It's like that the sand drawings that monks make, like you wipe it away at the end, and yeah, that's life, that's death, that's just how it is, and you have to accept that. We have such a fear of death in the West, and we're so like deathly afraid of it that we literally create like, we're secular, but we still create fucked up stories about how death is all fucked up and like scary. It's like, yeah, we probably should talk about it more, and we should be more open about it. And so,
all right, Andreas is going to cut us off here soon. I have one more question for the panel. All right, so one video game I like, it feels like it brings out, part of my primal self. I like to play the original, the 2018 version of God of War. Slicing, zombies' heads off. They're basically zombies. Going rage mode and punching things. Sometimes it's a lot of fun. So our current society seems to be built around suppressing part of our primitive animalistic self, and it goes into, it gets repressed into our subconscious and our unconscious forces, and it causes basically spurts of violence, frustration. How do we, other than, like, we have things like martial arts. Chris can probably take out some of that primitive stuff in martial arts, but a lot of us we're becoming a society that is less sexually active. That's probably an important thing to activate the shadow self, archetypal self, whatever, however you want to point it. What is a great way to reincorporate your primal self, or what's something we should be doing more often as a people? Maybe exercising is a given, but what do you think?
Yeah, just exercising.
Practicing willful gratitude. I think that's going to really make us in sync with nature. The more grateful we are, and that's when you get blessings from life. You get women to have sex with, you get money to spend, you get time to spend with your children. So
I think that we need less simulation and more, I guess, real consequences for the simulations. Like, let's say, VR is a step in the direction of you actually have to move your body to do the thing in the virtual world. And that means you get real physical benefits. And that means you get to actually, get healthier as you do it. Of course, the technology is not great. The games aren't amazing, but it's a step in the direction of, hey, we can have literally a stand-in for warfare where we have simulated war with real physicality and everything, and then people don't actually have to die in large scale to prove they're better. Just you win, your ideology wins, basically.
It's all creative energy, isn't it? And it's just about that. Even bludgeoning someone in a video game is expressing a form of creative energy. So if you could find a productive way, maybe not even necessarily positive way, to channel that energy. Yeah, go ride a bike, take up marksmanship, channel that energy in a productive way, and maybe eliminate predatory health insurance CEOs. You could really do anything in life.
I think men should give orgasms to women more. That counts. If you're in a relationship, you should
like at least one a week.
Gotta stop by the orgasm.
You don't always
some orgasms.
But how much
you don't always have to give
their
them
need,
the orgasm, just
to their need, not like
once in a while.
Force it on them. They'll be like, hey, it's your daily orgasm time, like when they're in the mood.
And then you see, like, in the meme, like a shriveled up female Wojak, like, yes, dear. She's like,
it's to bring in power tools after a while. No, you see, you don't want to build too much of a tolerance to orgasms, because at some point you're going to start busting out like stuff that isn't necessary, but like a healthy balance of sexuality is the key.
So I guess we should do closing statements to let Andreas close this thing out. I'll start. I'll say thank you to everyone watching. Thank you guys. Thank you for everyone on the panel. You guys are great to chop it up with. And that's it for me. Anyone else?
Next.
I love everybody here, and I even people who've hurt me, I love them from a distance. Learn how to set healthy boundaries with yourself, and grow out. I don't know. Find your comfort zone and the boundary of it, and grow outside of it. I don't know. Progress and learning and growth all seems I'm rambling. I've been up for and does anyone else have something coherent to say?
I want to
Andrew.
apologize.
We have an
I wanna
apology.
apologize for the man that I once became before I was a man, when I was a boy. And I am sorry because I probably can't even remember many instances of the pain that I caused people or just general annoyance. And so I do apologize. And let me know how I can make it right. Because, unless you just make up stories. That's all I have to say.
I
Amen,
forgive
brother. Amen.
On behalf of humanity.
All right, it's me. It's me. All right. I want to say that one of Andrew's boundaries is strap-on dildos. We got to learn that last week. So draw that boundary of dildo. No, it's funny. Good for you. That is important. When it comes to you, don't let life suppress you. But you also don't have to let that suppression of your primal being make you, do stuff like go slap people on the street. No, it's not like that. You do have to have those outlets. Some sort of
Choose
outlet.
the right moment to slap them. If you must slap them, do not deny the slap from occurring.
Yeah, there's always nuance. So I'm not trying to give people bad advice for sure, but like our drive, our necessity to be connected to other people and be connected to the earth, go on that hero's journey. It's never been more important. So it's like, yeah, you really have to go out and connect with people. And I do think there's something to be said about, changing your life view every now and again. If you go just try to live in a different state for a little while, you can see how people see the world, even though we're very Americanized. That's
I had a synchronicity. I'm sorry, Kurt. I had a synchronicity when you were saying that. I looked up and I saw a billboard that said "worship" through it, and I just want to share.
We like synchronicities. You have to get on. Andreas says you can come to Sync Tank sometime. They have a good group of people over there. And my other final statement is, wish me luck on my Spanish. I'm going to talk to a friend in Spanish, even though, theoretically it's harder to learn Mandarin than it is for English speakers to learn Spanish, but I'm still going to give it the good old college try. I hate the subjunctive. Subjunctive sucks, but I'm learning very slowly. That's all I got.
Love you guys.
I'm going to say, be grateful for everything you do have and be grateful for what you don't have as well. And forgive those that hurt you and, forgive yourself, forgive your inner child for the problems that you caused. But I want to make a case for biding your time and planning things out properly and thinking things out, because in our frustration, in our hurry to get to the finish line, we fuck up hard often, and the path to true enlightenment, or to true whatever you want to call it, is through that slow crawl of discipline and thoughtfulness, mindfulness, planning, and picking your time. You don't want to be too ahead of your time. You don't want to be too ahead of your time, because people think you're a time traveler, and then they'll kill you. So let's start oblivion.
So long as I'm in this Oval Office,